Just imagine growing up being taught that you are a girl. You don't speak until you are spoken to. You don't answer until you are asked to answer. Just imagine being a girl. You are taught to be submissive. You are taught the duties that a girl should do. You are taught that you need to be submissive. You are taught that you cannot lead when there's a man in front of you, or if it's a leadership role, either in a family or whatever it is, any position in the world, as I can see it, you cannot lead because you are the weaker. You are the weaker one because you are a woman. What if you'd get up one day and feel you'd want to challenge what is going on in your life, and then you stand up for your rights and start fighting? What is that name that you are called because you are a fighter? You are rebelling to the laws that be. They can be, yeah, your family rules, or you can be at work and you challenge your boss, or it can be politics. You start challenging the man who are doing things in politics or who are leading in politics, and you see that the things are not working. And as a woman, you stand up and say, I think this is wrong. What is that name that you are given if you are a woman? What if you'd get up one day and think, no, that's not right. I would want to change. I want to change my world. I want to change the world of a girl child. I want to change being called the weaker side or the weaker one. You start challenging the powers that be. Could be your family. It could be at work. It could be your husband. It could be in politics. What if you get up one day and say you want to talk about it? Is that not possible? Hi. Right, my name is Kathleen. I was born in 1954. I was born in Zimbabwe, where I grew up, having born from parents who, my father used to work as a chef at a hotel. He would cook. He was a chef there, a head chef at some point, I remember. But I remember him getting paid peanuts, and when he retired, my father was given a bicycle and a watch as his retirement package. I wouldn't have known anything about such things happen in the world until I came out of my home country. I was born in Zimbabwe. I'm here to talk about my story as a girl child. I was born in a family of 9, 6 girls and 3 boys. And during that time, I remember it was the colonial rule time in Zimbabwe. That time it was still Rhodesia. I was born in the colonial times. And my parents, because my father is, his father originated from Malawi. So for that reason, he stayed without the citizenship of Rhodesia at that time, although his mother was a Zimbabwean. His father was from Malawi, but he remained a Malawian according to the rules that were ruling that time, the Ian Smith regime. So he got married to my mother, bless them, and they gave birth to this girl who is talking today. And I grew up in this family, blessed, as you can see. beautiful, but I wasn't this talkative. I think I remained someone who was very, very quiet, and I wouldn't tell. People wouldn't tell whether I was angry or something I was challenging. So I grew up just in that scenario where my parents really made me aware that I was a girl. So as a girl, you are supposed to carry the duties of a girl. What are they? You have to get up in the morning very early before the boys get up. So you have to get up and put the fire on, and then make sure that they've got water to bath before all of you go to school. You have to cook and make sure they have their breakfast before we go to school. And that was the norm of a girl child. You come home, you have to come and knowing that when you get home, you need to prepare for the evening meals while the boy is playing, jumping up and down. But the boy child has got a special place in many families, as I can tell, because it's not only me. A lot of parents have been doing the same thing for over centuries. They never looked at the girl child and give their girl child a voice. They didn't give their girl child the position where she can challenge if she's not happy. It was, you have to do this, and this is where you stand. You have to ask when you need something. You had a channel to go through your mother or your father, if at all he was someone who was soft enough. I was lucky because my father was that soft, and that was my lucky, because this is the person that I would confide in. My mother was very strict, and she really wanted things done properly and her way. But one thing that she did, I don't think she knew what she was doing. She was actually empowering me. Finally, when I grew up and got out of that area of being a small little girl to a mother, I realized then that whatever she was putting in me, the powers that she was putting in me, they actually helped me as I went through into being a mother. I'm a mother, I'm a grandmother, and now I'm a great grandmother. And my children, they're all grown up. On this story that I'm gonna tell, I'm going to talk about myself and what in my journey in the life that I went through, from my parents to when I got married. Well, life has never been the same. Things change. I got out of my parents. I went to school with others, but I didn't go further. As usual, a girl child. It was like that time when it was after standard 6, they used to call it that our time. I don't know if anyone knows. The standard 6 was like you would grade 1 up to 6, but they used to call it standard 6. Like this time, I don't know what they call it. They've got these classes which I cannot tell. Sorry about that. But this is me. So when I finished my standard 6, I got home to something very hard to swallow. I got home one day. I brought my results. Oh, I've passed. Others are going to such a mission school. This one is going to a boarding school. And I was so excited. And as I was going to school each time, if I go to the hospital, I used to like those nurses. I used to admire that uniform, that white uniform they used to wear with their badges in here, with their belts, either it's a red belt or it's a green belt. I admired that uniform. And I did imagine that one day, just one day, I was going to be a nurse. This was my dream. Because our time, it was being a nurse, or you could be a teacher, or you could be a lawyer. Any white collar job was something that was promoted our time. They didn't know much about it. And I remember there was one girl I went to school with, and the mother, um, they used to call her um, with the title of her daughter who was doing nursing. So, it was like a very I could call it a prestigious position of being a nurse, a teacher, a lawyer, whatever. The parents would be bubbling. But unfortunately, some parents didn't see it good in girls, because they always thought a girl child, once the child is educated enough to stand and start challenging those people who are above her, it would not work well. So they still believed a girl child should be married. Her correct position is being married and stay at home and being a mother, become someone's wife and be submissive to that man. Unfortunately, the boy child was never taught that. I only came to realize this after I got married. So it was that time when I had finished my standard 6, I was told, you know what, unfortunately, you cannot go further. It's time for the boys so that we can keep money for them, and then they will go to school. So with you, it's time you get married because you're grown up, Katie. That's my name. So I was shattered. I I looked at my father. I looked at my mother, and I thought maybe just one of them was going to say, no, 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 no. She has to go to school. But my mother was like, no, this is it. You are not going to school. And my father challenged. He didn't fight this. He didn't have the power. I don't know what it was. He was, as I've said before, he was a soft man. So what happened next? Yeah, I got married at the age of 16, something like 15 and a half. That's when I got married. And protesting. I did protest. I did say I'm not going there. And if that is the case, then I'm not going to get married to that man because I don't know him. We never fell in love. How can I just go and get someone who would be like, oh, we've never said, oh, I love you, or I know that person. It was just hard. So I got married onto the arranged marriage because it was like, okay, you want to go to school? You have to agree that you get married first and then you go to school. And I wondered, what kind of a school was I going to go to? Where was I going to go to school being Mrs.? And how will I pronounce myself at a school and tell others that I'm Mrs. So and so, I'm married at that age? It was too embarrassing. But according to my parents, they didn't notice this, or they didn't realize it. It was their time. It was their kind of life, I think. So it was like that. And then definitely I had to come to an agreement with my parents so that they could allow me to go and at least grow up. So I did go to a school, which was a home craft school, which was somewhere where I was going to stay there for 2 years and then come back, knowing that I was going to go to that man because he had already paid his dowry. Yes, so yeah, I agreed. Because my father said, no, 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 we cannot get our child to get married now. She's still young. So finally, I was allowed to go to the homecraft school for 2 years. But each time I used to come home, and each time I would be inspected to see if I wasn't misbehaving at school, which is our culture. And then I would go back to school after the 3 weeks holiday vacation, or it's a month. Then I would go back to school. 2 years finished. It was like 2 days. They just went like out of the window. It was 2 years. And then I came home. I had graduated. I had learned how to make my own clothes. I had learned how to bake cakes. I had learned how to do knitting. I would learn how to do crochets, anything that hands could do. This was the proper school to do it. I had learned even to do gardening, and it was like a proper training that I got, but I didn't use it. I only got to use that training after the failed marriages. So when I got home, already the suitcases were packed. So we went, and I was sent to this man and to start a married life. Finally, when I got there, this man was quite educated, and he looked at me with tears in his eyes, and he said, "You know what? I've been thinking if this was correct what our parents did, but you know what? I'm not going to take you as my wife because I think you are too young for me, because I wasn't 18 then. I was still 16, somewhere there, 17. So I wasn't 18, and he's a man who was already working. He did a good job, but he said, "No, I don't think it's proper. Tomorrow morning, you get up, just take your suitcases and pack and go home." Yeah, so I did. I packed my suitcases and I went home. I rejoiced. Yeah, I was so happy. I'm going home. Finally, I'm not gonna be staying with that man. Maybe it was a good omen for me, but no, it wasn't. Things didn't work out that way. They still found out now. If that didn't work out, they had actually prepared me for that marriage. They had actually looked forward that there was going to be a wedding one day, and it didn't work out that there was going to be a wedding. It failed dismally. So I got married again, another arranged marriage. Yeah, this was another man. And again, the marriage failed. And the third one, yeah, he was like my father. He was an old man. He had divorced his first wife, and he had 2 children. And yeah, I'm his wife. I was still not 18. So you can imagine, within a period of 1 year, I had gone through 3 arranged marriages. So finally, I ended up with this man who gladly was very happy to see that he's got this young, cute little girl. So he took me to his bed, of course, and I fell pregnant, and I had my son, who was my first child. I just turned 18, and that time, this man, through the pregnancy, he abused me so much. Yeah, anytime if I don't submit to what he's asking me, or if I don't do things correctly the way he wanted me to do, I'll be slapped, I'll be kicked, and until I gave birth, it was like that. So when my child was about six weeks, this man came from work, and we didn't agree on one thing or the other. I don't know what it was. And what did he do? I answered back. Remember, I was told to be submissive, right? So this time I had to get a very good hiding because I didn't submit. Yes, I was beaten up. Yes, I was beaten up. To a point where people had to come and intervene. It was like he was going to kill me. And I was this tiny little thing, and with a young baby of about 6 weeks. So yeah, it escalated to my father. My father wasn't happy. I wasn't happy. I told my parents I was going to leave this man. I was not going through with the marriage. So yeah, finally, yes, I had a voice, but it wasn't enough. We went ahead. We got divorced, and I was left with a child of 6 weeks. So here I am, back home again. I've got nothing to do. I cannot practice anything. I cannot do any of those trainings that I got from the Homecraft school, here I am stuck again, back home. And you know what? It was tough to know that life can be that tough. But yeah, I went through it. Finally, I got the good of myself, the good part of myself, okay? Because I still thought the best for a girl child is to get married. And this is what I was taught from my infancy, that a woman, to have respect, you've got to be married. Exactly, exactly. This is what I did. I got married. So I ended up with another husband, the fourth one this time. But this one was my Romeo. I fell in love with the Romeo, and I was a Juliet. I was like a handbag. I forgot all the past because I looked at this man and I thought, yes, now I've landed onto the right man, my choice. But remember, I was still young. I was still a young mother with a child who was supposed to be cared for. And I never thought of the child that I was going to leave behind. So finally, I got this man and got married. But this was still a baby about a year and a year and a half. I got married to the Romeo, which I had chosen for myself. But forgetting that I had passed through turbulent times where I was supposed to look back, but you know what? I was still young to make a good choice. So I got married. Of course, he was my age, and we really fell in love, and this was my Romeo, and I was a Juliet. So we used to go out and we do things together. We do this together, but all of a sudden, things changed. Yeah, he got married to someone else. He got a girlfriend somewhere, and who was gonna be his wife while I was still there. I went through trials. I went through everything that you can call it. I I didn't know what to do, but this was my choice, right? So I had to continue in that journey. I told myself, at this time, I chose this man, so I'm never gonna fail. So I'll go through with my man. Yes, I did. I did kept fighting for this marriage, which was very tough. And to make the story short, I had my child, which was my second child, which was a girl. This was our first child between me, my Romeo, and me, and things just started crumbling. The marriage was just crumbling. One thing Romeo didn't want, although he knew that when we got married, he promised he was going to look after my baby. He promised he was going to take that child as his. But things changed. The moment we were together, Romeo didn't want to look after my child. He didn't want to know anything about him. My child came to visit one day, and the following morning, the child was packed and he was told to leave, which was painful. My child left me crying, and my baby was crying, going back to my parents. This was a young boy who didn't understand what was going on. When he came to visit, he thought, "Oh, I'm gonna see my mom." He came jumping and running to hug me and kissed. You know, I was so happy to see my baby, my first child. But to Romeo, no, it was taboo, and things started crumbling. The gaps started cracking, and I couldn't hold it because they kept going bigger and going bigger. So on my second child, I I was living in town, in the city, of course, and I fell pregnant with the second child. Although things were cracking, but I kept thinking one day it was gonna work. So I fell pregnant again for the third time this time, but it was our second child with Romeo. And when I fell pregnant, time came that I was supposed to give birth. Romeo came because he was now in and out of the house with that mistress. He would come in, he goes, he doesn't come home. I don't know how to follow him. I don't know where he's going. Whatever, it was just like yo-yo, right, round and round. So he came in, and luckily, it was my day to give birth to the child. So we were sleeping, and in the morning, my waters broke. We were sleeping. He noticed that the waters broke, And what did he do? He simply got up. When I had gone into the bathroom, he simply got up, got dressed, and he left. He left me in labor with no one, with a young small baby, which was my elder daughter, which was our first child. Romeo left, and he went. And when he left, I had no one to assist me, even to call the ambulance for me. Those days, there were no telephones. We didn't have mobile phones like now. So my neighbor, I had to shout to my neighbor because she saw me that I was in labor. She's the one who had to go and get a car, and then I was picked up from the house because she saw my husband leave in the morning and leaving me in labor. So she knew there was no one. So I had to leave my baby with this lady, and I went to the hospital to give birth. I gave birth, and Romeo never knew. Romeo never followed me until I got home on the third day. And I was being given food by other mothers who actually gave birth with me. So the other mothers would give me food. It was really a wrenching time, and it was painful. But I didn't know what to do. What I just thought was, one day things will be all right. One day, it was just one day, things will be okay. But was it going to be okay? No, it didn't. So finally, what did I do? I went on to go home, and Romeo came, and things were just falling apart. I was told to leave, and I would leave to my parents, and my parents would say, "You chose that man yourself. We had chosen the right man for you, and you refused. So you better go back." So it was like I would go that way and this way. I'll be pushed here, and I'm pushed out there. So I had nowhere to go. So the only alternative was I have to go back and fight my battles until I win. And this was my promise. I would win one day. But I didn't win. And this time, Romeo found out that I cannot live in town. So he pushed me to his rural home. So I was at the rural home with his parents. Well, I didn't mind because this is the life that I had chosen. And I didn't have a choice. So I went. Now I've got 3 kids, the other one, and these 2. Finally, what did I do? I fell in love again and gave birth to the 4th child, who was our 3rd child with Romeo. As I went through this, his father died one morning. He just got up in the morning, and as I went to check on him, his mother had just left to go to his parents. There was something there, some official doing at the homesteads. So she left in 2 days, and then my father-in-law got sick and passed away while I was with him. And it was hard for me, but I had to stand the ground and make sure that everybody knew this is what has happened. And everybody came. This was a funeral. Everybody respect. I mean, this is something that is a culture. We respect the dead, and people come to convey their condolences, and they will be there for some days. And what happened was really something that I've never seen. As I was sitting there with other sister-in-laws, we are busy cooking. Who comes in? My Romeo's mistress came in, only to find me. I'm this huge. I've got a 6 months pregnancy. I was really heavy, and when she looked at me, she said, "You're still here. I thought you left." Romeo said he doesn't like you. Who gave you the pregnancy? And this was at a funeral, you know. And I couldn't answer back because I realized if I answer back, then it would be something else. I was taught you don't answer back to your husband or to other people. So yes, I just looked at her, and other people had to say, no, that is not right. And his uncle, Romeo's uncle, came, took the lady away, and she tugged her out from the funeral until the funeral passed. But unfortunately, my Romeo left just after the burial of his father, and I was there with the pregnancy and 2 children. So I stayed with those 2 children there with the parents. They were quite. I mean, my mother-in-law was really an angel. Bless her heart. She really had to make sure that I had food on my table. She would share anything. I was a daughter to her. In her vocabulary, She didn't have something like a daughter-in-law. I was her daughter. So she really treated me with respect, and she really wanted me to stay in this marriage, but it was very tough. And finally, what happened? I time of giving birth, I gave birth. My Romeo was not there. Yeah, I had to go and give birth. I had no wrappers for the child. I had no nappies for the child, but this was the norm, and this is what was happening that time. So yes, I gave birth to my fourth child, who was a girl. And I came out of the hospital. I had to ask other sister-in-laws to give me some wrappers to wrap my baby. And I got out of the hospital, went home. Romeo was not there. Neither did he care. But before that, before myself giving birth, he actually got married to the mistress while I was still pregnant. They actually went to the altar in church and got married for the second time. And I didn't know. And when I was told, really, I couldn't go and fight. I couldn't go and ask, why did he do that? But I told myself, well, if that is his choice, then it's okay, because the Africans, they always married two women. So to me, it was a non-event. Of course, he got married while I was heavily pregnant. Of course, he got married when we were still married. So this was his second marriage. So what did it got to do with me? I said, well, whatever it is, to hell with them. But I'm here to stay. I'm looking after my children. So I stayed on. But unfortunately, it was hard. It was really tough. So, but I walked the journey anyway. After 6 weeks, my Romeo came, and he looked at my baby, and he said, whose baby is that? And I looked at him. I didn't know what to say. I looked at him, and this child looked a duplicate of him. But he looked at the baby and said, whose baby is this? This baby doesn't look like me. And you know what? Fortunately, my mother-in-law was there. And my mother-in-law said, this child had been given another name, but I'm going to change that name to her name. So she changed my daughter's name and gave her her name. And she said, I will not accept you abusing my daughter. Remember, you don't live here, so when you come here, I need you to be respectful to this woman, because she is looking after the family here. She had all the respect, but my husband had something else. But he managed to stay that night, not knowing he had something up his sleeve. So as we went to sleep in the night, he got up. I don't know what he asked me, and I answered. I can't remember what it is. I was beaten to a pulp. I couldn't even... The child fell off the couch where we had put her, because I was sleeping on this small, tiny little bed. And so the child fell off that couch, and luckily she fell and she rolled under the bed. Luckily, that's where she survived. Otherwise, she could have got on top of the baby, and probably I wouldn't be talking of that child being there today. So I did. The child was there. I'm being beaten here until people had to come and break the doors and open to rescue me. But I was all over. I mean, I was in blood. I couldn't get up. I couldn't pick the child. Everything was just in a mess. And they tried to do things. But this time, I told myself, enough. I was leaving. That's the only time I left. And from there, it was a journey that I'm here to empower someone, empower another woman today. I want to tell you something. There is life after divorce. There is still life for you to go on and do things differently. I challenge every woman who has passed through a divorce, don't hold on to the divorce. Don't get hooked onto it. Just move on. There is still a day called tomorrow. So I'm empowering every woman. I'm giving you a voice today to follow what I did, and I did win. I wish I could go on and on and on and tell you where I ended up. So, but I'm here to tell you that even without going to school, even without a degree, without anything that a certificate that I could hold and say, I went to school, this is what I did. I'm here to tell my story. I did manage to have a voice. I did manage through self education to have a voice, to challenge and say, this I will do and this I will not do. Now my children are grown up. I'm now a granny, a great granny. And I've gone through it. I can tell you my story on and on and on. But this is my story, which I'm here to share with every woman. We have gone through this journey of marriage and arranged marriages. It's hard, it's tough to get married to someone who you don't know, and that person comes to your bed and you start making love. It's not an easy thing, but I wish every parent should learn to empower the girl child. I wish, it's my prayer today, that every parent should look after the girl child. Give her the voice. Empower your girl child. Let the girl child lead. If the world was being led by women, I tell you, the world could be a better place for every one of us. Look at what the world is going, what we are going through with men all over are running the world, politics, and look at what we are in today. Things are not the way they should be. Things have changed. Things have gone the other side. We are still struggling. There is no peace. But I still have got I still hope and pray one day there is gonna be a voice for us. And I wish you well. And this is Kate. And thank you for listening to my story. And thank you very much.